Hey everybody, going live today on the GenWell Project with my friend Todd Minerson from Movember. We're a minute early. Wow, Todd is on the ball. Isn't that amazing? Hi Alicia. Let me see if I can bring Todd in here. Oh, I'm going to actually say, Todd, it says you're unable to join, and it's probably because you're on your laptop. And we've had this challenge a few times. We need to be on an iPad or on a cell phone. And apologies, it's in the note that I sent over, but on the bottom. And hopefully you can, hopefully, yes, you're on your laptop. Is there any way you can pick up your phone and join us on Instagram? No rush. I joined a little early, so. You are the man, Todd Minerson. This is why we love working with people who are entrepreneurial in spirit, who have a can-do attitude, and who can make things happen. And that's not only what Todd is all about, but that's what the team at Movember is always about, which is being entrepreneurial and how they approach the spirit of helping others, and specifically men in this case. So. Always great to hear what's going on with the folks at Movember, and looking forward to the conversation today with Todd. Alicia, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a great day, and hopefully we'll have a good turnout today. We had a great conversation last week with Maureen Bryan. We had 100 people tune into that conversation after the fact, and these conversations are really helping people get through these challenging times because a lot of us are going through the unknown of COVID-19 and waking up to the realities that this isn't going to be over anytime soon, and that we do need to stay connected with one another. And there's Carrie Goulet. Hello, Carrie Goulet. How are you, my friend? Great to have you tuning in to us today. Just about to get on. Thanks, Todd. Thanks for coming back. Just getting on with Todd Minerson here on the show sometime soon. Actually, I think we've got some other sporting legends coming on as well, Carrie. Hello, Todd Minerson.
Hey, Pete. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Nice stash, my friend.
Thank you. Been working on that since November 1st last year.
Yeah, this is, that's part of the role, right? I'm assuming when you're at Movember, you got to have that stash pretty much year round.
You know what? One of my objectives starting the job was to kind of bring us to the realization that there's 11 other months in the year. And so I told my team I would grow it for the full year. Little did I know COVID would kind of, and I'm 100% for wearing the masks, but I can't really show it off now when I'm out in the world. Like, nobody gets to see how spectacular the curl is when I got my proper form-fitting mask on and I'm stacked up in the line of Loblaws.
That is an interesting situation, Todd. I understand some of the challenges that the mustache movement has, and certainly mask wearing probably doesn't help people show off those styling stashes.
We've got some plans. We've got some plans for November when it comes to that.
Well, and let's hope that by Movember, hopefully we're not still wearing masks. So who knows what we'll be doing by then, eh?
Exactly. If you thought yesterday, you sure don't know tomorrow what's going to happen in 3 months. So it's that's part of the challenge of the whole thing right now.
I was just going to say that's probably a little bit of what we'll talk about when we talk about what the work is that you guys are doing at Movember right now, how COVID's impacted it, and what's it like moving forward, because the unknown is probably one of the greatest challenges that we're all facing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Todd, as we start off our Connected Conversation series, we always start off by introducing the GenWell Project, why we exist, what the Connected Conversation series is, and then we'll come back to your wonderful bio and then dig in deep to what is the COVID-19 impact on men, and how is it unique to the other half of society? So if you give me 2 minutes, I'd love to do the intro, and I'll get right back to you. And I love Nikki just joined us there, who I know is a friend of yours and a friend of mine. So great to have Nikki joining us as well. So hi, everybody. It's Pete from the GenWell Project. We're a human connection movement that since 2016 has been reminding people about the importance of face-to-face social connection and inspiring us to take action. Our goal was to get people connected before the next crisis, but unfortunately we are now in the middle of that crisis and waking up to the need we all have for human connection in our lives, because now it's been taken away from us. We launched the Connected Conversation platform with the onset of COVID-19 in order to bring people like Todd Minerson to the forefront, so that we can talk about the people, the ideas, the tools and tips that we can all share with each other through conversation to help us all through the challenging times that we're going through right now and build the resilience that will make us happier and healthier in the long run. Today we have Todd Minerson, the country director for Movember Canada. And Todd's bio is experienced chief executive officer with a demonstrated history of working in civic and social organization industry, has worked with governments and the UN on gender justice issues, globally recognized expert on men, masculinities, and gender equality. That'll come in handy. Skilled in nonprofit organizations, corporate social responsibility, program evaluation, entrepreneurship, and professional mentoring. Strong business development professional with a BA honors focused in history and gender studies from Queen's University. Todd Minerson, it's awesome to have you join us on Connected Conversations. Thanks for making the time.
Oh, thank you, Pete. That's such a kind of embarrassingly long bio, but I appreciate you getting it all in there.
Hey, we all have to write them, and we never think about the person reading it until the time the person's reading it, and you go, "Wow, did I really write that whole thing?" But honestly, when it comes with those type of credentials, Todd, I think it's important, and I think as we go into this conversation, it's really important that people recognize that you don't approach this lightly. You approach this topic with a lot of education and a lot of passion. And maybe we can even touch on, before I get into my first question, a little bit of your background, because you've been in the gender space, but just on the other side in the past. So maybe give us a little tidbit of where have you come from before you took over Movember Canada?
Yeah, it's a great question, Pete. I mean, in a lot of ways, my career has been very uncharted, very unplanned. But in other ways, it has had some kind of key touchstones throughout it. And one of them has been exploring gender and social justice. And yeah, probably the biggest piece that you're referring to there in my work career was my role as executive director of the White Ribbon Campaign here in Canada, which is the world's largest movement of men and boys working to end gender-based violence. And so in that role, very much looking at what men can do to promote gender equality, to be bystanders in preventing violence from happening, and to kind of challenge and change those masculine norms that do contribute to disproportionate amounts of violence against women and girls. So I spent 12 years trying to figure out how to be a feminist guy in a very feminist movement. I subsequently went to work at the Federal Ministry of Women and Gender Equality for a year, where I was actually working on a national strategy for men and boys and gender equality. And when this opportunity came around in Movember, part of the feeling out process was, hey, you're hiring like a feminist dude, right? And we had some really amazing and astounding conversations around that, because I live firmly in the belief that gender equality is good for all of us. And some of those harmful parts of the idea of masculinity not only harm women and girls and other people, but they harm us as men and boys too. And unpacking, unraveling, unwinding some of those is going to make everybody safer, more happy, more well in this world. And so that's where I'm trying to marry the two experiences in this with Movember.
Well, you're a man after my own heart, Todd, because I think, part of the reason that, I launched the GenWell Project was really about creating empathy and compassion and understanding for one another. And as you know, that happens by educating ourselves and spending time and building that understanding of the challenges that everybody's going through. And, especially right now, I think we're all going through challenges, but taking that approach of having been, what I love is that you've been on the campaign side, you've been on the government side, now you're on the other side. And I think it is that broader understanding of the challenges that we all face in society that can enlighten people to, hey, guys, the only way we're getting through this is by working together and building the bridges that will help us, manage through these, the turmoil that we're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's so much around men's health and wellness that we get in our own way around, whether it's, asking for help or reaching out and connecting or knowing how to talk about difficult things. And a lot of them are tied into that idea of what we think it means to be a man. And when we can start to, let go of some of those things and be empathetic, be vulnerable, know how to have these conversations, like, man, the world opens up for you. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I know it doesn't come easy because we're not ingrained in it. And also a lot of us don't have really great role models to work by, especially maybe guys growing up in my generation. Our dads probably had even more of a struggle to be that kind of man in the world.
Yeah. Well, we're getting into our conversation already, which I'm looking forward to. But Todd, the way we start off every one of our connected conversations is by checking in with the person that we're talking to first, because in the challenging times we're in now, it's critical that we all do the check-in with each other. And it's not a passive, it's not meant lightly, but it really is saying, hey, Todd Minerson, how are you holding up during COVID-19, especially in a role as a caregiver, as somebody who's out there trying to help others, who's trying to share a message that will help break down some barriers between people and genders and organizations and, frankly, across all types of barriers. The key is to put that oxygen mask on ourselves. So, how are you holding up during COVID-19? And maybe what have been the biggest challenges that you've faced thus far?
Well, thank you for asking, and I'm going to ask you back afterwards because that's what we need to do also. Um, but it's been up and down. It's really been up and down. Today and this week, I think, and the weather, and we closed down the office for a couple of days last week. So I think right now I'm doing really well. I got an amazing family. I got an amazing team that I work with. I have the distinct privilege of doing work that's trying to help the situation right now, and so that gives me a lot of purpose. Um, our family unit is learning to live with it. It's not easy all the time, and there's definitely ups and downs. And some days it feels like you're juggling chainsaws on a roller coaster. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing and what's next, and who's eating food that day or not. And so there's definitely ups and downs, but I think overall I'm doing okay. And I think the relaxing of kind of some of the rules and being able to connect safely and socially distantly with people in my life over the last little while has also been a really significant positive change in the way things are going. So I got to hug my mom for the first time in like 4 months, and it was pretty awesome. I won't lie to you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the research is showing that's the thing that we're missing most, that ability to connect physically with each other, and what's lost in that, and from an endorphin rush and the lack of the really feeling like we're in something together here.
Yeah. And how are you doing? Like, really, really, how are you doing?
Yeah, hey, it's very similar. I think as somebody who's been chasing a dream to launch a global movement about human connection for 4 years, I certainly haven't been doing it for the money. And I think, unfortunately or fortunately, that's actually set me up well as we head into COVID-19, because I haven't had the financial impact that many have had. And in actual fact, the interest in the movement has grown over that period of time. So working very hard, but as you say, working with purpose always makes us feel more fulfilled, because we can connect the dots between the meaning of what we do each and every day. On the family front, we're very fortunate, and I think this is the important thing, and I've heard this from everybody when I've asked that question, and I can hear it within your answer, which is, hey, if you have food, water, shelter, safety, and security, I'm a big Maslow's hierarchy fan. He drives a lot of the thinking I have in my life. Then we really are the lucky ones, because there's a lot of people out there who may not be able to put food on the table, who may not have shelter, who may not have the fundamental needs. And we can get to, oh, am I allowed to go out and do things? Am I allowed to socialize? Other than those fundamental, connections that we need in our life. But all that other stuff, you're starting to recognize, well, maybe that wasn't all necessary to go to bars and restaurants and, all those things. Yes, we have an economy that we need to drive, but I think becoming more conscious and aware of what we need to live versus what we had and what we may have desired, I think has been really helpful for me. And I think for a lot of people to recognize, a lot of the stuff that we were craving may not have been so important.
We've had some really interesting conversations in my house about, like, what are we going back to? Are we going to go back to 5 nights a week of activities and working till 7 o'clock and taking the TCC home and rushing through dinner and getting somebody out to something and back and forth and only really sitting down and connecting on, Saturday afternoon or something like that? Like, what of all of that busyness was adding value to our lives and what was adding stress to our lives? And that's one of the themes I think that's coming out of this whole scenario for me is, what are some of the opportunities? Opportunities to reflect on things like that, opportunities for you to talk about connection in a way that's more visceral than it's ever been before. I mean, nobody wants the tragedy that has to come with it, this particular epidemic, but we've certainly had some of that at Movember as well, where we're talking about mental health in a really tangible way with guys that we would struggle to do if it wasn't for the current situation. So looking at those kinds of opportunities, looking at the opportunities that are coming out of the Black Lives Matter conversations and the equity conversations and the Indigenous rights conversations, those are all phenomenal chances for us to get better and build back better and not go back to the same old. I'm not going to use. I'm going to keep it polite for the
Todd,
for the conversation.
I know we're here to have a conversation about Movember, but you and I need to go and have a coffee when that opportunity presents itself, because I think we both have a higher purpose and goal in what we do and what we aspire to in this country, and frankly around the world. And everything you've said thus far is like, okay. We're on the exact same page. So let's leave that for our next in person, or if it has to be a virtual. But let's talk about Movember, and let's talk about what's happening at Movember and what's COVID-19 done that's unique to men. So maybe for those who have been living under the rock for the last, I don't even know, is it 10, 11 years, maybe something like that in Canada.
Yeah. Can
you give us a bit of an overview of Movember and the causes that you support? Because I know that's changed over the years.
Yeah. So, and I think it's only fair, Pete, to acknowledge to your audience here as well that I'm kind of standing on the shoulders of giants here in this conversation, and that you've had my job and were spectacular at it for the time that you did it. So I think it's fair to share that and let your audience know that little piece of
and there was a lot of people that were part of that amazing journey. So lots of people to shout out to say great work, and here we are moving forward, trying to continue to spread this important message with the men in the world for all the reasons that you said off the top of the conversation.
Yeah. And so, we are, as people know, we spend the month of November trying to grow this dirty duster on our lip, but there's way more to it than that. And we are really the world's largest men's health charity. And we have a pretty straightforward mission. It's to change the face of men's health. We do that over time by evolving into kind of 3 focus areas that we know have very, very significant impact on men's health and lives. And are places that we can really make a difference. So we work on prostate cancer, and that's to the tune of, in Canada, having funded over $100 million of biomedical research and survivorship programs in Canada in the last 12 years. We work on testicular cancer, which when I started this job, I thought, that's like an old man's cancer and you never really hear about it, so it can't be that common. when in fact it is one of the most common cancers in young men and one of the most curable cancers if you can detect it early enough. So our role around testicular cancer is really to raise awareness and ensure that people are um, getting themselves checked if they know there's a problem, because there's a spectacular survival rate if we're able to help guys do that. And then most recently, Movember's evolved into another huge area for men, and that's mental health and suicide prevention. We know that, over the space of this country, and if you look at global statistics, 3 out of every 4 suicides that are completed by men, and men are overrepresented in almost every aspect of mental health and wellness issues. So this has become a huge priority for us, and it has become an urgent priority for us during this COVID period. And we've been able to successfully kind of lean into providing support and resources for people around that. At the same time, we know that guys who are living with prostate cancer are still struggling, and in even different and more complex ways than they were before, if they can't access regular treatment, or if conditions are pushed back and timelines are pushed back for them. So we aren't neglecting that, but we know that given this kind of perfect storm of things that's happening with COVID, and I'm sure we can dig into what some of those are later, but we know that mental health is a huge problem and a huge challenge that we need to get on top of. And so that's been really meaningful part of our work in the last 3 or 4 or 5 months. I can't even tell if it's been how long it's been.
Yeah, it's so interesting that first off, social connection, and tied to our mental health, because obviously that leads to better mental health. Dr. Andrew Matthew, who I know is a big part of the work that you do in the prostate cancer space, but on the psychosocial side, has said, social connection, there's a direct correlation to a positive outcome. So whether it's for mental health, or whether it's for somebody dealing with their mental health going through cancer, whether it's prostate or testicular, how important is it that we all, continue to support people in their mental health through the various ways that they need it. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's just to that, we were able to accelerate and roll out a really important digital health project for us called Movember Conversations. And it's exactly about that, Pete. It's just about, on the prevention end of men's mental health and wellness, one of the most important things we can do is stay connected and open up the conversations. And so our amazing team of digital and mental health experts put this project on the fast track. We got it rolled out in what was originally a 9 or 10 month scale into about a 3-week, 4-week scale. So it took kind of everybody to roll up their sleeves and align around this. And we have created a tool that's getting amazing feedback and is really a very, very practical guide for men in terms of not only to how to stay connected, but how to have how to get over some of those barriers to meaningful conversations. How to do what you did in the beginning, which is more than just like, hey, how you doing? Fine. Hey, good, fine. How you doing? Hey, fine. But actually getting into like, how are you really doing? And I want to listen to you, and I care what you have to say. And in doing that, we have this awesome methodology called ALEC, which stands for ask, listen, encourage to take action, and check in. And so it's really a nice 4-step way of having meaningful and deep conversations with people and being supportive if they're having challenges. And the feedback we're getting is just phenomenal about how effective it can be for people and how practical it is too. So we've been pretty excited about that.
That's amazing, and kudos to you guys for turning it around. Obviously, at GenWell, you guys are one of the community partners that we have at GenWell, and our message is, hey, we're not the people leading the conversation. Well, we want to be the leader in getting people to think about connecting, but it's through people like Movember talking to your unique group, whether it's prostate cancer, testicular, we think of it from a gender standpoint, whether it's the Tamarack Institute talking about neighbors and building in communities, whether it's Habitat for Humanity talking about homelessness and how we can help build communities there. We are just the umbrella that encompasses all of it. I like to think of ourselves as the aggregator of good. And so to hear you guys be able to turn that around so quickly, and I love the the idea of having a simple 4-step process that people can follow. And again, giving people, we like to say that we were the catalyst that got people to speak to each other before COVID-19. And now we have a problem every day where people are feeling lonely and isolated. And if every one of us can actually remind each other of just how important human connection is for our health and our happiness, maybe through your 4-step process or through something that somebody else sees from somewhere else, at the end of the day, we are truly all in this together. So it's awesome to have another great tool out there. I know that Jack.org has been doing some great stuff for young people. I know that the Canadian Mental Health Association has been doing some other stuff for others that are dealing with mental health. Everybody is in this game together. And so we just want to be that organization that says, hey, let's all come together and let's share this message collaboratively about, and frankly, Todd, none of us were ever educated on this. We were told to go to the gym and eat better. So we're now living in this isolated world, and most of us actually don't know the simple action and the benefit that can come from connecting with one another. And I think, and you have the financial ability to actually invest and make that happen. And I think Movember now, I don't know, are you still in 21, 22 countries? Is that on a global scale?
Yeah, about that. Of course, the big four markets are Canada, US, Australia, and the UK, but significant efforts in New Zealand and in the EU. And yeah, just the passion and desire for men to get involved in working on their own health and wellness is not limited to those 6 countries for sure.
So let's flash back pre-COVID, and you've been there. I think probably maybe 6 months before COVID. Be about that.
Yeah, I started 2 weeks before the campaign last year.
Nice. So you've been through a campaign, and how would you kind of describe the work that Movember was doing pre-COVID? You just talked about that new campaign. What was your focus? What were the main messages that the campaign was coming out with in the lead up to COVID, and then as well as the Movember Conversations platform? What else have you been doing to try and connect with your community and support them through this, frankly, the isolation and disconnection that if not everybody, certainly the vast majority of us are facing?
Yeah, it's a great question, Pete. All the plans that we had in January that got approved in February they're out the window right now. And
yeah,
but what we are able to do is take the best of it and keep it in place, and lean into those areas where we could make a difference really quickly. So, an example is April is Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. We had a campaign ready to go and roll March 13th. Everybody gets sent home. You're not coming into the office. There's so much fear and anxiety and uncertainty around those early days of the epidemic here in Canada that we said, you know what, it's not appropriate to kind of just roll with this Testicular Cancer Awareness campaign right now. Let's gather ourselves together. Let's figure out what we're going to do. And that's where we kind of said, okay, we can make a difference on mental health and we can do it fast. So let's marshal our resources around that. That led to Movember Conversations. We also did a global study around the world of how men were faring. And this was conducted in the first week or 2 of May. I think we did about 7,000 interviews with men around the world, how they were feeling about their mental health. And not surprisingly, they weren't feeling great about it. What we also learned in that research was not a lot of guys were reaching out and not a lot of guys were getting reached out to. I think it's about a quarter of Canadian men said they hadn't talked to anybody else about how they were doing. And my PR team's going to kill me because I forgot the stat and I'm not on my laptop of how many men, felt that nobody, I think it was 40% of men didn't feel that anybody had reached out to them. So we could see a problem there that there was a space for us to step into to try to address. So Mo Conversations comes out and we try to give men the tools to do that. We also aligned a campaign called Take Our Words for It with the launch of that product. And now we're working on, not only how do we get ready for a campaign, but we have a bunch of other initiatives on the go. One thing that is incredible about Movember is that our governance and financial planning has been so strong over the years that we're in a position to keep funding projects right now. And there's not a lot of other organizations, I think, that are as fortunate as that at this very moment. We just closed the call with our partners from the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, looking at projects for the motorcycle community around mental health. And we have a couple other calls coming over the course of the summer. One is an innovation challenge. We're going to ask the community for great ideas on connection and mental health during isolation times. Another is going to be around working with veterans and first responders and scaling up projects that are working to help them with their mental health. And, last but not least, we haven't really touched on it explicitly, but as part of the global Movember movement, we are really fortunate here in Canada to hold the global lead for our Indigenous programming around the world. And just 2 weeks ago, we were able to announce that we're contributing $1 million to the world's first subarctic mental health and addictions treatment center in Churchill, Manitoba. And, access to services in the north is one of the biggest barriers to health and wellness. And so it's pretty incredible that even in these days and in these kind of uncertain financial times, we are still able to kind of make some of these announcements and have some of these projects go forward. And that project in Churchill was one that we're really, really proud of and really excited about.
Huge kudos to you guys. The Indigenous community has not been treated fairly at all. And it's awesome that somebody, Movember government people need to step up, because it's abysmal as to what's gone on in those communities over the last, I don't know how many decades we want to
centuries.
So, yeah. So, hey, I wanted to touch back on your global study. Any plans to continue to reach back out? Because I think you mentioned that was in the first couple of weeks. I know certainly IMI, who's our research partner, has done some research on not gender specific. It's been, what are people missing? And it's been really valuable to see that, the single largest thing people are missing is the human connection and touch. And whether that's through going to a sporting event, eating together, gathering with family, friends, all of it, it's all lumped into we miss each other more than ever before. And I think that's a really powerful message for us to wake up to. But is there any thoughts of going back out there, Todd, and seeing, because, I kind of see this as a phase. First off, we thought this was just a long vacation. It was like, hey, I got 2 more weeks off. This is great. Then it was, okay, so this thing might be a little more serious. Now I need to set up a home office. Now I got to figure out the kids and schooling. And now I think people are actually, in some cases, they might actually be settling in and feeling more comfortable. But I think for other people who've lost a job, who don't have financial security, who may be going through some relationship issues, who may be battling cancer of some sort or any type of illness, any thoughts on going back out and doing that research again?
Yeah, we haven't made any firm decisions, Pete. We're just doing a little bit of a stock taking right now to figure out what to do next. But that research was definitely set up to be a baseline that we can go back to and revisit. And it's 6 weeks ago, and it already feels outdated. It already feels like things have changed, since then. And it's been the same kind of struggle as an employer, to be honest. Like, do a pulse survey of how everybody's doing in April, and it's changed in a matter of moments. So yeah, we're just kind of pausing and just gathering strategically a little bit again, but it's definitely set up to run that research again and see the change, because it's a snapshot of a moment in time, and what we can really gain value from is seeing if there's any trends or improvement or gaps over time. So it's in the plans but not confirmed yet, I would say.
Yeah, and whether it's through Movember, again, this is another opportunity for, I think, us all to come together to say, hey, is there somebody planning who has the budget, who's going to do the research, and can we all share that information and break down some of those barriers between the not-for-profit organizations to say, hey, we all should just chip into a single piece of research and do gender specific, do demographic work, do cultural work, so that we all understand. what the challenges are, because we are, in my opinion, we're just starting here. The ramifications of what we've been through thus far are going to be, months, years, decades long, and the impact and the need for the work that you're doing is only going to grow.
Yeah, Pete, we talked a little bit about like opportunities at the beginning, and kind of highlighted some of those specific ones. Chance to talk about connectivity, the opportunity to learn and grow around anti-racism and Indigenous issues. But another one is around partnership, to be really honest, and that idea that collaboration between nonprofits, between private sector and nonprofits, between academia and nonprofits and private sector, it's never been greater. Like, we are hurting right now, and we should be in that place where we can start to put ego and proprietary issues aside and say, like, we're all in this together, and we're working to the same outcomes and the same vision. Like, let's do more together than we can do alone. So it has been pretty exciting to have some of those conversations bubbling up as well. And this moment in time has offered an opportunity for a lot of us to rethink some of the reasons why we weren't doing that so much in the past. And that's been kind of one of the other silver linings to come out of all of this.
Yeah, I would suggest that maybe we were a little spoiled, and we had the opportunity to put up barriers and worry about our own infrastructures and managing our teams and our organizations. And I think as we look forward, it's really about how can we have the greatest impact on others. And from a corporate standpoint, it is my belief and my hope that consumers start rewarding those businesses who truly do stand up for a better world and commit to authentic support of causes and issues that we face in society, because that is, you want to get a business to change what they're putting their money behind, have the consumer start spending money on those businesses that are actually helping others, and it'll be amazing to see how many businesses jump onto movements like ours and campaigns like Movember.
Well, I know you're speaking to our friend Nikki Burns, choir book, when you talk about that, who's just joined in here. And, I would shout out a couple other people that I see that have joined in the last little while. Johnny O from my hockey team, and a guy who's been a pillar of connection in our group. And then my old friend Clay Jones also just joined in too. So awesome. We give some shout outs to those folks taking the time to join us.
I love it. That's amazing. There's another guy that I think we both know, Mr. Philip Haid over at Public Inc., who's been ahead of the curve for a long time in trying to make those connections between the corporates and causes, and trying to find that win-win partnership that actually helps make the world a better place and helps make profit for the businesses.
I learned a lot with Mr. Philip Haid on a whiteboard tour working at together for a year and a half or so. He was a genius to sit and watch him think.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how far it's come over the last. I think they've been around for 7-8 years as Public Inc., and before that, I know he was in the space as well. So hopefully, all the effort and all the thinking is now about to come to complete fruition as everybody starts to see the opportunities to work with an organization like Movember and help make the world a happier and healthier place, one mustache at a time.
Yes.
So as we move forward, Todd, what do you think the challenges are that men are going to face? What are the things that you're hearing? What are the things that people are feeding back to you? What are the biggest concerns that men are voicing?
This couldn't be more of a perfect storm for all of the conditions that contribute negatively to men's mental health and to men's health outcomes, right? Isolation, economic insecurity, job loss, family pressures, caregiving, like these are all of, if you check off the major list of things. And like you've said a couple times, they're not going away, unfortunately. I think the reality that we're in this for a much longer haul than we had hoped is starting to set into people, and that's going to bring new challenges to all of us. I know even amongst some of my friends and peers, and definitely in our neighborhood and stuff, the conversations are turning to like, what is school going to look like in September, and how are we going to possibly manage that? What does returning to an office look like at some point down the road? Um, but the core things behind it aren't going away. So we need to kind of not despair and not lose focus on some of those things as we move forward here. And it's easy to do over time. It's easy to get complacent and easy to let things slide. So that resiliency, I think, is the first thing that we have to keep attuned to. But the second is also just really having our eyes wide open and our ears wide open, because the nuances and complexities are only going to get more challenging too. Like, as we kind of hinted at here, if you think about a person's journey, if they have a chronic illness or cancer right now, I was talking to a guy yesterday who's dealing with kidney disease, and he said, you can't imagine what dialysis has been like for the last 3 months. And the fact that I'm thinking about having to go through that for the next unknown amount of time is starting to really get daunting for me. So there's a lot of nuance and complexity that's going to start to emerge that we need to care for and tend to. So that's going to be another challenge on our plates. Maybe lastly, it's just going to be the need for resources, and we know, the people have already been so generous in their giving when it comes to frontline services and things like food security. We saw it again with issues like Black Lives Matter and Indigenous rights and equity issues. But all the rest of us are still going to need to start to lean on our communities for support at some point in time. And it's a delicate balance, but if we want to keep doing the things that we are doing, if we want to keep funding projects that no one else is funding, and if we want to keep looking at issues and challenges like you are and we are, then we can't do it without any support. So there's no shortage of challenges on the horizon, but the way that we've handled it as a society so far still gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah. I'll tell you, part of the inspiration behind the GenWell Project is my mom was from a little town in Northern Ireland and always spoke to me about going through the Second World War. And the only way that they survived as people was by coming together. And, we can think of the challenges that we would face, from food insecurity to, fear of death and all the things that would come with war. And this is probably the closest thing in our generation to a war for many of us. And I think, again, the big message that I want to share, and certainly the financial component is there in regards to running programs and supporting people. But I think every one of us has an opportunity to make a difference in our own lives, and in the lives of other people right now, just by reaching out and having a conversation, getting out of our own heads, getting other people out of their heads, and actually recognizing that we are not in it alone. And my mom always talked about, after bombings, after whatever would be the turmoil that they would go through, everybody came out and hugged each other on the street. And I think the hope that we need to all keep in mind right now is that there will be another time. And I love the fact that you had the chance to hug your mom after 6 weeks, I think you said.
Yeah.
And it is those hugs and recognizing that we are not in this alone, that we are going to get back to human connection, whether that's with our friends, family, neighbors, or colleagues, and the understanding that we will get to the other side of this and we will move on, because that's what we do as human beings. And I actually might even suggest that we may, although it'll be very challenging and many people are going to go through a lot of challenge, maybe the greater empathy and compassion that will come from this scenario may actually result in a more connected, more concerned, more empathetic world all around us. And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, let's hope so. And I mean, I've seen examples of it, and it's really, like, to say warmed my heart is kind of cliche, but I don't really know another way to describe it. That feeling in your heart that you're having these kind of meaningful connections and conversations with people. And I would shout out again my friend Johnny O, who's on this call, and I'll just tell a little story about our hockey team. We've played hockey together for 13 or 14 years. Thursday nights, summer and winter. Sometimes we get 6, 7 people. Other times we get 17. But when this all started, we said, Thursday night, 9 o'clock, what are you guys doing? Let's jump on a Zoom call. And so we've had, that going for quite some time. I confess, I haven't been on a lot of them lately, mostly because I'm still on a phone call to Australia at 9 o'clock
Yeah,
at
yeah.
night. But
I remember that.
yeah, but guys like Johnny have been a rock star on it. Like, they are still connecting every week, and they're talking about what's next, and they're talking about how are you doing, and they're talking about it was tough trying to get my kid through grade 11 from March to June, and it was, it's been stressful to think about how to care for my aging parents when I can't see them. It's meaningful, important conversations that are happening with groups of guys in ways that I haven't seen before. I try to do a phone call when I walk my dog at night to somebody, and have had just incredible response, and the conversations that have been so meaningful and just so banal at the same time, but just such gratitude and connection for reaching out that I wouldn't have done that every night on my dog walk if it wasn't for, the scenario we're in. So those are just me, but we're hearing tons of examples from our community. And I'm with you. Like, let's build back better. Let's not go back to this same old busy, disconnected, I've in it for myself kind of world. Like, we can see where that's got us, and it's not a way to go forward in the future.
Yeah, I like to always say we all need a Johnny O in our life, unfortunately, not everybody does, and
No.
that's why, the GenWell Project is here to be a catalyst. We want to get people, and we launched a campaign called Just One More. So your phone call every night to that just one more person, whether it's a senior, a young person, somebody who's working too much, somebody who's living alone, somebody going through relationship issues, every one of those phone calls right now can make a huge difference in the life of someone else. So I love that you've taken that on. So we're just about at the end of our time, Todd. So we have one last question that we ask everybody before we go, because I think it's important to see that, as we talked about, we will get back to those times of connecting with people. But when this is all over and the new normal sets in and we can get back to connecting with our friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, everybody around us, what do you think the first thing you're going to want to do is when we get back to being able to get out there and get connected?
Well, there's one thing that I'm missing really, 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 really terrifically, and there's some people on here who know about it as well. But I have a hobby, and I collect vinyl records, and I have, at the ripe age of 48, found myself a monthly gig at a fun little pub in the East End, and it's not happening now, obviously, and it's not happening for the foreseeable future. But when we get back to normal, that's probably the one thing I'm looking forward to most, is playing music at Farside, at Broadview and Gerrard, last Saturday every month. DJ Mo Funk. Shameless plug.
I was just gonna say, what's your DJ handle?
DJ Mo Funk at your service.
I love it.
But that's what I miss
Well,
the most, because I know it can't happen now, and it's not close to happening. And the music and the creativity is such a fun thing for me.
It's such a, everything you're saying, Todd, the idea of being in a room of people that are having fun and smiles and connecting, and, the opportunity to be creative and share and inspire other people to dance, to sing, to do all those beautiful things. It's the thing I think many of us are missing right now. And yet there's still opportunities for all of us to focus on making the best of this time. Take a class, learn something, do some art, learn to sing, follow a choir. All these are the things that we want to make sure that people hear about, the positives, as we go through these challenging times. And head over, where can people find out more information about Movember Connections, right?
Yeah, just anything from our main page, Movember.com. Follow the link for conversations to find out that Mo Conversations tool. A ton of other resource there, and some great stories. Our content team has done an unbelievable job of reaching out to our community and sharing the stories that they have. So there's a great diversity of stuff in there. Tons of resources and support for people to access. And yeah, we would love to hear what people think about it.
Well, Todd, honestly, it's been great to chat with you. I know we've been trying to get this chat going for some time now, so we finally made it. Unfortunately, it's virtual, but we will get back to a coffee or a beer sometime soon, and I look forward to catching up in person, if not a virtual another time in the meantime. But thank you for making the time today. Thank you for the work that you and Movember are doing. And, you know, hopefully somebody, as they listen to this, will share this video with a male friend, a husband, a son, a grandfather, and recognize the difference that we can all make right now by sharing information like this and the tools that Movember's creating, because we are in this together and we will get to the other side of this in a happy and healthy way. So thank you for the time, Todd.
Thank you, Pete, and also for all that you do, your generosity of spirit. You know, this vision you have of connection is what the world needs right now. So you're a good man.
I appreciate that, Todd. I look forward to it. You're buying the beer then.
All right, I'll buy the first one.
When I come out to the DJ show.
All right, I'll put it on my tab.
I love it.
All right, Pete.
All right.
Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day, and thanks to everybody who joined us as well.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody. Thanks very much. Bye for now.